Hi, I'm Sarah Jane from Natural Heating, and today I'm going to take a look at the Dik Geurts Ivar stove. The Ivar stove comes as both a 5 kilowatt and a 7 kilowatt nominal, and they are made in the Netherlands. Now, industry-wide, these are known as one of the slickest operating stoves in the market, and they are favoured by very many fitters for a lot of very good different reasons. They're not everybody's first choice for other different reasons. So let's have a look at why they are so popular and why we like them so much. Okay, so this is an Ivar 5. And as you will see, it's got quite a deep firebox. And I've just discovered, I don't know where I've put my tape measure. Alright, so here we have an Ivar 5 on the test rig today. Now, this isn't a brand new stove. This stove is about a year old, so you're seeing something that hasn't been polished. It has been used, it's had a good amount of wear, and what condition it's in now. And sometimes that's a good thing to have. Now, this particular stove is quite low and squat. It's 555 millimeters high. And from memory, I am pretty sure it is 450 millimeters wide. Oh well, look, I'm not too far off. 46, just over 465 millimeters wide overall width, probably 450 across the body. Depth-wise, you are looking at just over 400. Now, it's low, which means, and it's deep, which means it can suit smaller fireplace openings where you have the depth but don't have an awful lot of space, but still give you a really good heat output, because that is a big firebox in there. For the size of the stove, it really is substantial. So we are looking at 26 centimeters deep and an internal width of approximately 39 centimeters. So to those of you who want English, that is approximately, 16 inches, just shy of 16 inches wide. Now, I've got some 10-inch, I'm going to go back. I can also do it with one hand. I've got some 10-inch split logs here. Let's see if we can get a couple of smaller ones out for starting off with. Right, so these are all 10-inch length, typically, which is why I like using kiln dried, and these are birch logs, so they always take off very easily. So 25 centimeters or 10-inch logs in length, and as you can see, loads of space. It's a big firebox. It really is a big firebox. Now, these have these have a 5 to 7 kilowatt heat output rating. And actually, that's not very generous. They probably do more than that because they've got a really big firebox, and it really is an impressively hot stove. It may be small, but it's mighty when it comes to performance, and it is seriously reactive as well. They're just a really good all-rounder. They're fairly plain, they're fairly basic, they're fairly simple. But oh my God, are they easy? I mean, the baffle, for one. The baffle is the plate that's at the top of the firebox. This bit here. And it's known in many different models to be a struggle to get out. But just wait till you watch this. Now, in some stoves, baffles are known for being an absolute pain in the bum to remove. But there is good clearance at the front for airflow, and they come out really easily. So, there you go. There's the baffle out. Got a bit of soot on top of there. But anyway, that's how easy the baffle comes out for entry into the chimney at the back. Dead easy. There only is the one baffle. Never known any issues with spillage or drop in performance or anything else with these. So they're just so simple. They haven't changed before the Eco 2022. They didn't need any changes to make them pass. Most other stoves needed a lot of work from the manufacturers. These, no, nothing at all. So there's no difference. So we'll put a good pile of kindling in, and let's get her lit. So we'll have the air vent fully open. and lighter with the blowtorch, just because it's easiest that way when I'm doing these on my own, and leave the door slightly ajar. This can cause quite a lot of hilarity in the showroom actually, because the door handles in these are removable. Yeah, they come off. We typically take them off because then you've never got a hot handle. It's a really heavyweight, easy to use handle that rather than use a glove, I leave the handle off and just put the handle on the door. You can lock the handles on through a screw and screw them on, but then you need to use a glove. And to be perfectly honest, I like to be able to remove the handle. But it actually can be quite funny when somebody thinks they've pulled the door handle off the stove. They can get a bit of a fright. When actually it's just loose fit and they just pop in. So if I just show you. She says, and this one's screwed in. Just clever that, isn't it? Just absolutely typical. This one's actually been locked in. This isn't my stove and I've borrowed it. So I didn't really know, but I'll show you one. See, that's just what happens when you do videos. Always expect the unexpected. And when I just do them live and the way I do, I don't edit the mess ups out because I think it's good that you see them. So just in here, this actually screws it in to lock the handle into the door. So this one's definitely been screwed on. There you go. There's the screw that goes in through the bezel, through the handle, and screws right in that locks the handle on. So we'll leave the door slightly ajar to get this fire started, and I'll show you an Ivar 8, which is the bigger version. Right, so here's the bigger Ivar 8 over here. And this is a new one. This is a new one in stock. And actually, it's the same size as an Ivar 5, it's just deeper. So width on this one, there you go, 555 wide. And there's the baffle. And the removable door handle. So when you've got the door handle set to remove, there's where the screw is here. So when you undo that screw a little bit more and then screw it right through, it nips into the handle. Now, it's not going fully on at the minute because I've not done that screw. But we just take it on and off, see? And that way you don't need a glove. And it's dead easy. So, this is how it comes. New, there's your baffle at the top of the firebox that we were just looking at. And they are so simple. It's a one-hand job to get the baffle out. And there's your flue for clearing access. They are probably the simplest, lightest stove baffle in all the more modern units. And this is a calcium silicate board. They seem to last a long time with these baffles, and they don't burn out very easily, which is just as well because they cost a lot of money for the baffles. The internal linings are fairly easy to cut by hand with vermiculite and a saw if you're used to doing it, and I can cut them without too much big a deal. But the baffles you really have to buy from Drew, and off the top of my head I think it's about £80 or £90 for a baffle. It's a lot of money, and that is excluding this metal strip just for that cream colour board. I have cut them out of vermiculite, which is a whole lot cheaper, thicker material, and rebated the sides, and that works very well. But this stuff lasts a lot longer, it really does. It just costs twice as much money. So, one-handed, there's the baffle back in. It's dead quick and easy. Taking this bit out to get all the linings out the inside and do any adjustment, you take the bottom ones out, and then there's screws in the inside down here before you can get these side ones out. But it's really not too bad. Ropes, everything else is dead standard. They just never give us any trouble. They really don't. Door handle. If you've got small people, like really little small people, it's quite handy to be able to take the handle off and put it up on a shelf out the way. Stops them trying to get in and play in it, especially during the summer months. I have no issue with the removable handle. I like the removable handle. As I say, you can fix and screw that on for a more permanent fit, but then you need a glove. So your call. Now, the larger 8 kilowatt version of the Ivar does do up to 10 kilowatt. And here we go. Our little stove is taking away quite nicely in that 4 or 5 minutes that I've been chattering. So we'll take another little log and pop it on top. And shut the door. And it won't take long to heat up and get up to temperature, because it pulls away nicely. So you can see there's a decent draft on that. And this is a compromise system because there's 3 flues all connected to this one system. And you'd never do that in a house, but to have a reduced draw and on a test rig to show that something's going to perform, it's a good means of testing. Now this stove does get hot. It gets very hot all over. This stove does get hot. It gets very hot all over. The top, the back, the sides, all of it, it gets hot. It really is best suited to going inside a fireplace opening. That said, you can get a heat shield kit that goes on the back. And that heat shield kit then allows you to fit the back as close as 150mm to combustibles. The sides need to be miles away from furniture or combustible walling, so it's definitely not a stove you'd ever put in a corner. And it does need a constructional hearth. It does not tell you in the manual or the fitting instructions that this stove needs a constructional hearth. If you have the tall leg version or you have the version on a log store, those can go on a 12mm hearth. But this version must go on a solid constructional hearth. The 5 kilowatt has leg adjusting bolts underneath, but ironically, they haven't put the leg adjusting bolts on the 8 kilowatt version, which is a real weird thing to do. Can't understand why they do that, because really they should both have leg adjusting bolts. And I've mentioned to Drew a few times about that, but really, it's the only downfall. Is no leg adjusting bolts in the 8 kilowatt, and fitters can easily get around that. It's not the biggest deal in the world, and it certainly wouldn't put me off buying one. For smaller fireplaces that you need a big heat output, both of these are very, very good models, and you can see how quick this is heating up and coming up to temperature. It's clearing down lovely, very quickly. Now, they also do some other versions of the same. They do a stove called a Surin. And a Surin is basically the same as an Ivar, but with a different door. There is also an Ast, and again, both just different door styles. It's exactly the same size, same chassis, it's just a different front. So there we go. We've got an Ivar and a Surin currently next to each other. And you'll see they're both the same height, both the same width, both the same body, just a different door, but looks surprisingly different. The Surin is a lot more classical compared to the Ivar being a lot more modern. But both, these are all really popular stoves for us because the controllability on these is fantastic. Again, removable door handles are standard on these. Now, with this one, I've actually already taken out the lining panels that go on the floor, because underneath this sneaky little plate, and now I'm not going to get my fingernail underneath it. Underneath this sneaky little plate is a screw, and that DEFRA screw is for taking out the air limiter so you can shut it down further. You can only do that if you are on a 6-inch flue system and not a 5-inch flue system, but it is easily accessible underneath those floor lining plates. And if you take the floor lining plates out, that's where this is, and you can get to it dead easy. You don't have to take the stove out or turn it around or turn it upside down. It's literally just under the floor. Top and rear flue exit, 5-inch on the Ivar 5s, the Modivar, the Surin, the Ast, all the same sort of body units are all the 5 kilowatts are a 5-inch or 125mm diameter flue. The Ivar 8, however, does have a 6-inch flue spigot. Let's go and have a look at the one we've got lit. So there you go. It's beautiful and bright and clean and coming up to temperature really quickly. It's not a slow starter, this one, it's fast. And the air control is just so the air control on these, as I mentioned, is probably one of the slickest, easiest, nicest controls of any of the stoves you'll find in the market. And really, for air control, we've got it up there on a pedestal. It's just beautiful to use, and it is so reactive. So if I just turn this down, one slick move, there she goes. Now it's just burning off the oxygen in the firebox, and you can see it's controlling down nicely, but yet burning all the carbon off at the top. I'm not actually sure if this one's got the air limiter in at the moment or not, because I haven't taken the base panels out to have a look, and this stove's a year old, so I couldn't really tell you. From looking at it, I would say that it does. So I would say that the air control screw is out of this one. And we'll turn it back up. It's instant, it really is instant. She's bringing that air back in. And this stove is nowhere near at full temperature yet, but it's only been going a few minutes. The heat's banging out the front. You get easy cook on top of it, and in it, it really does bang the heat out. Most of them were modern stoves, really don't get very hot on top because they're designed to push all the heat out the front. This does too, because it's all vermiculite lined. Vermiculite insulates to about 1200 degrees centigrade and pushes all your heat forward out into the room. Same with that calcium silicate boarding that they use for the baffles at the top. But just the way the air draw and everything is in these stoves, we don't have any problems with them with downdraft or lack of performance or lack of draw, or people just don't have issues with them. They're so simple. That is probably the beauty. They're simple. You can get a multi-fuel kit for one as an optional extra if you would like. The log store versions, you don't buy a log store separate, you buy it with the log store. It's a one-piece unit. But you can adjust this just a tiny bit, a tiny bit more, a tiny bit more, a tiny bit more. It's just so smooth, so slick. And you can have it exactly where you want it. And you'll hear the air controls doesn't make a sound. It's beautiful. It's slow. It's fun. I'm still moving this, by the way. I'm constantly moving it as I'm talking to you. I'm moving it a tiny bit at a time so you can see it react with one finger. One finger on this air control is all I'm doing. And it's so light. It's just as light as a feather. And it's just a joy. Look, she's dancing. Isn't it mesmerising? I could just sit and watch that. I am watching it. I'm watching it backwards because I'm watching me. But it's just so easy. And I'll open her right back up again. And you can hear it. You can hear it pull. You can hear it perform. So it can purr like a kitten or it can breathe like a dragon. It's lovely, isn't it? A lot of people don't choose these because they want a bigger glass. They want a bigger firebox. They've got a bigger, wider opening. They want a more panoramic screen. And this is quite a small boxy unit. I've said to Dik Geurts quite a number of times, please give me a 8 kilowatt size, but as a 5. I want a 5 wide, a shallower firebox with the width of the door. I've been asking for years. It's never happened. But the core units that they offer are very, very good. They're not cheap, but they're good. They stand the test of time. They last really, really, really well. And they're just a joy. They're an absolute sheer joy to use. My brother has an Ivar 8 in his house, and my intention is to go and visit him this weekend. So if I get a chance, I'm going to take you to my brother's house and video his Ivar 8. Because really, that stove's been in there several years too, and these are a really beautiful and functional and easy to use unit. And he's got a big room with a big space, and it does the job fantastically well. If anything, these stoves are underrated. They have a huge amount of power, a huge amount of flexibility, and they really are one of the top stoves that you will find in the UK. You won't find fitters and dealers with any complaints about these. All you'll find is people that love them, and love them to their very core, because once you've lived with a Dik Geurts stove, you'll appreciate the true quality. They really are superb. So here we go. One finger, can you see? Oh, my log's falling forward. It's caught on the retainer bar at the back, but it's falling forward. So what I want to show you is you can see me move this with one finger. Slowly, slowly, slowly. But watch the fire. It is reacting. Now I can leave that at any point I want or keep moving it. There's so little, there is resistance, but very little resistance, and it is just so slick and so easy. There's no twiddling, there's no hardship. This control's cool, at the moment anyway. I can't actually remember if it gets hot. Simon will be able to tell me, or I can sit and play with this later. The door handle definitely gets hot, that's for sure. And you don't want to touch the sides or any part of it without a glove on. I'm not going to sit here and burn this all night. I've burnt these so many times before. I used to have an 8 kilowatt live in the showroom, and it was just as good as what this is now. I mean, they're superb. It's awesome, isn't it? You could play with this all night. The air controls are just fantastic. And that's on the first logs and the kindling. You can still see my kindling in there. It's up to temperature. And it is, my arm's on fire. Not quite, but I could just about melt my jacket. It's hot. It really is hot. So there you go. You will see it is beautifully clean in there. And that is still my kindling and the first small logs. So the handle's getting warm, but it's also not hot yet. But this stove hasn't been going for very long. So I'm just going to prime the door. My hands are getting hot now with the heat from the glass. You really do need gloves with this when you've got a hot handle. And slowly open the door. And as you see, no spillage. And it's burning beautifully bright and clean. And as I said to you, this stove is not new. This stove is a year old. And really, when you inspect the wear, yes, there's a couple of hairline cracks in the fire bricks, but that will do no harm whatsoever. But it's in extremely good condition, and nothing's needing done to it. And operating wise, it's as good as it was new. You'll get years out of one of these, and the performance, you'll never be disappointed in the performance in the Dik Geurts. Well, this is probably one of the shortest videos I've done in a long time. But what is there to tell you about these, apart from the fact that really they're best suited to a fireplace opening, or if you're going to have one freestanding, then I would both put the heat shield on it and probably have it on a log store. They're just bloody brilliant. My mum's going to tell me off for swearing again, but honestly, they're pure bloody brilliant. You will love it. Ivars are a force to be reckoned with. They really are. And a lot of people just walk past them sometimes in here because they think they're too square, they're too boxy. But if you have the depth and you've got a square fireplace opening, honestly, they really are the business. These cut the mustard. I mean, they really kick out some serious heat output. Fabulous firebox, fabulous fire view, fabulous air control. Dead simple. We love them. Well, I am visiting my brother in Scotland, and we are just going to take a look at his Ivar 8. Have a play. So, we are in Uddingston, and we are in a flat, or we're going to visit a flat, or an apartment that was an old library. Okay, so I'm in my brother's flat and today we have an audience of dinosaurs awaiting the next performance. It's big, open plan room with high ceilings. He's got a small child, so there's usually a guard in front of the fire who my nephew is about, who's currently with Nanny, so I can video this. This stove is now approximately 4 years old, I think. Is it 4, Si? Yeah. It's been in here about 4 years old, and really, truly, it's as good condition as it was new. This is a big sandstone fireplace that Simon has, and the fireplace opening itself is 950mm, about 37.5, 38 inches internal size. And the Ivar 8 is 100mm wider than the Ivar 5. This building is late 1800s and it was an old library, but up in Scotland in Uddingston. We'll see if we can have a look at the window, will we? So he's got fabulous views out here. This was an old police station that's opposite. We're in the old library building on the second floor? Well, 1 story up. These window boxes are looking nice. That's the crossroads into Uddingston through there. And through the other window, which I can't get to for now because I'm on the wrong side of the property, is the Turnix factory that makes the car. The Ivar 8 has a heat output range of 5 to 10 kilowatt. So because it's over 5 kilowatt, even though this is an older house, you do need an air vent to an outside wall somewhere within the room. The fireplace that Simon's got here is satin stone with a granite hearth and was made locally by a stonemason. It's very heavy. What did you say it was, quarter of a tonne per pillar?
Yeah, half a tonne for the lintel.
Quarter of a tonne per pillar and half a tonne for the lintel. So getting up the stairs must have been quite interesting, I'm sure. My kid brother. There you go, we've only just lit this and it's picking away nicely. It won't be long and the dinosaurs will be all nice and warm. It's pretty horrible weather out there. You'd never guess it was May. It's chucking it down, absolutely throwing it down with rain. So Simon's just telling me, because he has got really high ceilings in here, my ceilings at home are 10 foot, his ceiling height is 13 foot, and it's probably 8 foot in ceiling in the flat above because it's shorter because that's the top story. And then out the roof, so he's probably got at least an 8 metre flue on here and he's already a story up off the floor. So it's a big high building, but there's a lot of airspace to heat, and especially when you see the height of Simon compared to the ceiling. Through the other side of your kitchen so that I can compare you to the wall height. Yeah. There you go. So as you can see, Simon's what, 6'1"? No, just 6 foot? Yeah. So about 6 foot. And there's at least him again to the ceiling. That is a big high ceiling. So although the room is open plan and not horrendously huge, there is so much height in there that we really need the 8 kilowatt stove to be able to heat this room and the kitchen and the doorway. So this is starting to heat up quite nicely. It's only been going for a few minutes. I've already shut the door and it's picking away quite nicely. But as you can see, it's just like the Ivar 5 that I videoed the other day, except wider, good sized fire and a good size opening. Not too big, not too small. You could take a slightly higher stove, but you wouldn't really want it any wider. It starts to detract from the entire fireplace, but this is a big fireplace overall, never mind the space in the middle. As Simon's just been saying to me just now, previously to this stove in here, he actually had a 16 kilowatt cast iron stove. And stoves have evolved so much that they are now ridiculously more efficient. Being all vermiculite lined, that means that it pushes all the heat through forward. So the cast iron stove used to lose a lot of heat into the fireplace opening. This stove may only be an 8 kilowatt with a 5 to 10 kilowatt range compared to the previous one being 16, but it heats the room in a fraction amount of time and actually gives him a lot more heat output and a far lesser fuel consumption. And I've already told you all about them. They're a fabulous stove and they are so mega controllable. Now that's the kindling that is still alight. It was big chunky kindling, right enough. The logs are just starting to catch at the bottom, but already the stove's starting to heat up quite quickly and the baffle's starting to clear, so it won't be long and we'll have that fan going as well. So this stove, like the Ivar 5, is already up to temperature, and just to show you the air control again, it is super reactive. On the Ivar 8, on the Ivar 5, they are genuinely all the same, and up there on a pedestal for probably the best, slickest, easiest, nicest to use air controls. There may be other points that you don't like so much. This is a big deep firebox. It's an astoundingly hot stove. I'm baking sat here. It's not exactly cold today. Simon sat in a t-shirt and I've got a kind of hoodie on and I'm boiling. And it's not exactly cold outside. This stove's roaring away, doing its dragon thing, and we'll have it in kitten mode in a second. But it is single finger air control, moving it very slowly. And you'll see, it is so easy to bring into check to whatever level you would like. Super controllable, super slick, super easy. There we go, that's nice and just dancing. It's as simple as you'll ever find. It's a basic internals, but it does what the Scandinavians do best. The performance of Scandinavian stoves typically outweighs just about everything. They look good, they last well. Some of the cheap stoves, you'll be lucky to get more than a few years out before they look jaded. These, even with an old stove, a lick of paint and a polish, and they come back up like new. This stove has been used well and several years old. And there's no signs of wear. The only thing that is slightly annoying with the Ivar 8 is the lack of adjustable feet. I can't understand why they put adjustable feet on the 5s and they don't put them on the 8s, but they never have. It's not the end of the world, but annoying that they do it on one model and not on the other when there's no real other difference other than size. But they're super fast in terms of control and just easy.